Hello, everyone. Um, Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Um, if you're viewing this in the morning time, my name is Keith Linder. Um, this video is on my YouTube channel with my other 500 or so videos. Those interested in what those videos are can just Google Keith Linder or Keith L on YouTube. But let's get right to it. Um, Yeah, so a few weeks ago, I had reservations about making a video such as this, uh, throwing my hat into the ring or the fray, if you will. But several emails, several instant messages, several DMs, several tweets from people, friends, people all over the world who are familiar with my Poltergeist story, Poltergeist ordeal. Those who are unfamiliar, you're about to be. We'll get into that in a few seconds here. Uh, Kindly ask me, rightfully so, ask me, um, how did I feel or did I know of the recent or still Zak Bagans controversy? And my first reaction was, what Zak Bagans controversy? So I reviewed the material, I reviewed the news sites, the news web sites, and information online from various sources, saw the social media back and forth, and immediately raised my eyebrow. And even then, after reading the stories, two things happened. Number one, I was not surprised by the revelation, and that's what this video is going to be talking about. I'm going to explain why the revelation around Zak and Ghost Adventures didn't surprise me, but also the level or the question was asked to me by many people, by a lot of people familiar with my case, those who know me, fans of the show, ex-fans of the show. Did I feel some sort of vindication? Do I feel vindicated? And that's a kind of weird assessment for me, because if you're familiar with my Poltergeist, me and Tina, my ex-girlfriend story, you know this already. Based on my background, you can see behind me that I met Zak, I met Ghost Adventures. I was on the episode titled Demons in Seattle. That episode aired February, I believe, February 28th of 2015. And it was a very controversial episode, very controversial. It was one of the few episodes in the history of Ghost Adventures where they left a location, that being our house, with no evidence of poltergeist or what they would call a demonic activity. And it created a firestorm online and social media. It created a firestorm in the paranormal community, mainly because them leaving empty-handed. People thought me and Tina were hoaxing or attention-seeking, thought we were blowing our claims out of proportion. And the episode, when it originally aired, me and Tina were not given any preview of the episode when it originally aired. That was weird. We saw it the first time, the world saw it the first time. And we were attacked. We were attacked and were viewed by many as wasting Ghost Adventures time. How dare we pull them in and waste their time, suggesting as if we have any control over what the spirits do. And we took a lot of slack for it, a lot of slack for it. Tina especially. Tina was attacked online. Tina is a smart, intelligent, beautiful Black woman. There were caricatures of her drawn on both Twitter and Facebook. And I, being sort of the lead, if you will, between me and Tina, went to Ghost Adventures, went to the production crew. We had not heard from them since. They came in November of 2014. The episode aired 2015, February. And we had not heard anything, dead silent, cold silence. And then when we were attacked, I went to them to ask them, could they sort of do something out, to put a statement out there that will lessen the attacks on us. You know, sticks and stones, they say, can't, may break your bones and names will never hurt you. But the toxicity, the venom, the caricatures, the racial epithets being hurled at Tina and me and myself. People were calling Tina the demon lady and misdrawing her and posting pictures of her in a bad way on Twitter and Facebook. And all I wanted to do was ask Ghost Adventures to sort of put a statement out there to sort of lessen that, tell their fans to calm down, walk it back a little bit, but they did. And I was very put off, secondly, by the way we were portrayed, meaning that if you watch the episode, Demons in Seattle, the way it was put together, edited, uh, suggested that there was something nefarious going on, or there was an innuendo implied. Several statements made, several questions made, questions that, and I, being there when the episode was filmed, were rhetorical. Asking questions to each other, sitting at a round table, where these were rhetorical questions, questions that they knew the answer to. Number one, the episode never originally implied or mentioned to its viewers that a family who lived in a home 4 years before we did had similar activity. They never said that on the show. But fast forward to today with the controversy surrounding the revelations that Zak and those around him, the powers that be, meaning Zak being the ringleader, could possibly be orchestrating, or through politics, internal politics, canceling shows, canceling other potential rival paranormal shows, and keeping other shows from becoming popular. I found that interesting. I mean, it was very interesting to hear and read those stories. But they do, and this is my opinion, fit the track record of what Zak has done in the past, not only to me, but to the paranormal community in general. Zak, over time, and he's been in this a while, seems to have positioned himself sort of as a mafia-esque type role within the paranormal entertainment industry, to where he wants to control material going in and out, and impact potential competition, and those things that he feels is a threat to not only his show, but to his way of life, to his credibility. But he has been giving signals of this action for quite some time. This should not startle people like it didn't startle me once I read it and dove deeper into it. A few months after Zak had left our house and the Demons in Seattle episode aired, there was a similar case, I believe in Indiana, of a house, of a haunting, African American family again, and Zak purchased the home. And I remember when he purchased the home, and there was talk of a movie, documentary, and I believe there was a documentary. I believe he called in Dr. Barry Taff to assist them or to evaluate, and they made a documentary or whatever, and put that out. But in true Zak form, sort of what he's done with Nick and with Mr. Bill Hartley, whose wife is a friend of mine, full disclosure. His wife lived in the Demon in Seattle home, full disclosure. Upon his investigation, Zak, who at the time was promoting what was called para-unity, who had done several interviews, including in CNN, about the need for para-unity, unity amongst the paranormal community, had the house demolished. And his reasons being, hey, to prevent spirits from ever hurting anyone else, and I'm paraphrasing, or whatever his reason was. He never really put out an official statement, but you sort of got the idea. That's why I always objected to that, as well as others in the paranormal community. I thought that was odd, being a para-unity. But he was really protecting his backside. He was really protecting himself in the sense of not having anybody come after him to investigate not only his work, but to investigate the house, maybe plan another methodology, maybe a skeptic coming in after him, that if they found something or didn't find something that could maybe potentially put him in a negative light. I found it odd that you would demolish a home like that, but instead you own it, and have others come in after you, maybe with a little bit more experience. And for the record, I don't view or never view, especially after meeting Zak personally, I never viewed Zak as a real, true uh, ghost or paranormal researcher. Zak, in my opinion, is not a ghost or paranormal researcher. He's a ghost hunter. He stays high level in his investigative methodology. I feel pretty comfortable by saying this. Zak does not spend time investigating the paranormal unless a camera is being filmed in front of him. He's not one I could picture doing homework, because once again, going back to me and Tina's case, uh, I was vindicated. We were vindicated. Our story was vindicated. Me and Tina. Uh, our claims were proven to be true a year and a half to 2 years after Ghost Adventures left, when another team, two teams, a North America team led by Nikki Novell, Google the name, and her team assembled and found evidence, lived in the home for 3.5 weeks. Coinciding with them almost was the UK team from the United Kingdom, who flew over 3,000 miles, 4,000 miles, and lived in the home for 2.5 weeks, 2 trips, 2.5 weeks total. Parapsychologist Steve Mera, who at the time had over 35 years ghost investigative experience. His chief researcher at the time, Don Phillips, and Nick Kyle. Remember those names: Steve Mera, Nick Kyle, and Don Phillips. And they made their evidence public almost immediately, went public with what they found, and were able to substantiate, and I say this in all capital letters, substantiate what me and Tina had been reporting. And the crux of the matter, long story short, the home was labeled an intelligent haunting, localized intelligent haunting, landlocked intelligent haunting / poltergeist infestation. And so that went out to the prayer community, and that's where my vindication was. This recent stuff involving Zak, and if true, and I believe it is, of him orchestrating, plotting, conniving through careful politicking, keeping shows or controlling shows, sort of monopolizing the conversation once again, having the demon house destroyed and broken down prevents other researchers from coming in after him. He wants to control the narrative in that regard. 2 years later, or more, longer than that, in 2020, talk about doubling down instead of course correcting. Ghost Adventures, meaning everybody who visited the Bothell home, did a special episode. I believe they called it Demons in Seattle Decoded, where this was a show where they would review their own episodes and provide insight, if not an update. Very weird episode. Demons in Seattle, meaning our house, was their pilot or first episode of this new format called Demons in Seattle Decoded. And it's got Zak and his team, the same team that were in the Bothell house, with the exception, I believe, of David Schrader, who was not on the second episode. But they're sitting around in a movie-like environment, sort of like a Siskel and Ebert type thing, and they're reviewing their own episode, very arrogant, very egotistical. And they're saying this and that didn't make sense, that and that didn't make sense. And one of the researchers, and I think Zak as well, blurts out, well, there were other researchers in the home who did find stuff. And they sort of nonchalantly, like, well, we don't know who they are. We didn't. And I thought that was odd. Number one, several years have passed. This was in 2020 when this Decoded show aired. Demons in Seattle aired in 2015. So you got 5 years removed. And you don't, once again, I don't think you're a researcher, but you might think yourself as a researcher, and this still will fall under the umbrella of a ghost hunter. You don't think to reach out to the house occupants. And Zak has my contact info. His producers of the show have my contact info. I'm employed at the same company I was when I lived in their Bothell home. and you don't make an effort, let's use that word, you don't make an effort to reach out to the occupants, meaning myself, to see where things are at today. Hey, what happened to that Keith guy? What happened to that Tina guy? Let's backtrack and go back and see. Other teams came in after you and found stuff. Other teams came in and lived in the home and found evidence. They shared their evidence. Nikki Novell and her team, which includes Carissa Hartley, did publish their findings, did go and do interviews and whatnot and talk about the evidence that they found. And it's available for all to critique or to thumbs up or whatever. And Steve Merad, parapsychologist Steve Merad, Don Phillips, Nick Kyle, the former president of the SSPR, coming out of Scotland, one of the oldest paranormal organizations in the world, okay, visited the home and made their evidence public. These are people that I would view, or I would think Zak would view as peers, some as his contemporaries, individuals that he can maybe have a beer with, have a sandwich with, have a sit down with, have a Zoom meeting, because Zoom was out at that time. This is during COVID 2020, during a lockdown. Have a conversation, not with me, put me aside. Let's put Keith and Tina aside. You don't like me? Okay, leave us alone. Have a conversation with Steve, Dawn, Nick, Nikki, and her team, and get the information from them, because you're doing this decoded show. You're about to do this decoded show. And, provide an accurate update. The family, who I told you were having activity 4 years before we did, Rhonda Jimenez, committed suicide in 2016. She said she never felt right, quote unquote, I'm paraphrasing, she never felt right after living in that home. Zak and his crew and Zak and his producers know all of this. How do they know all of this? Because I sent it to them. See, I'm an IT professional, I'm an IT project manager, and there's things that IT project managers do that benefit situations like this. Is we are excellent record keepers. We document everything. We document on top of document. You know why? Because ask any project manager, communication, artifacting information is the cornerstone of project management research. So I have the sent emails where I sent Zak and crew the evidence that his colleagues, the Nickies, the Steve Maras and others, the Nick Kyles, had found. So when they're sitting on this TV show Decoded and they got their legs folded and whatever, and talking about the Bothell House and how they figured this and that, and that, and that, and that, they are throwing rhetorical questions to the audience, to the camera in front of them, but they know the true answer. And they are lying. I'm going to use that word in all caps. Zak is lying when he says about the researchers, he doesn't know really who they are or are they trustworthy. How do you find out who somebody is? You call them, you email them, you interview them, like you interviewed me, like Steve Mara interviewed me. Steve and Don interviewed me for 4+ months, back and forth, 6 months back and forth before making the trip over. And to paint that episode like that, the way they did to Decode It, and the Demons in Seattle episode, the way they portrayed Tina in the episode about her and Zak almost headbutting in the total darkness, that's not how it went down, helps me believe and understand where Nick is coming from. Helps me believe what the other show that escapes me right now, because I'm not familiar with paranormal TV shows, I run from them, helps me understand and believe their experience. Helps me believe when Mr. Bill Hartley says this is what was done to him and how the producers led them astray, had them believing for a period of time before finally just cutting their knees off and saying, we don't want you anymore. I can believe this because I have the opposite side of that. Once again, I'm not a paranormal researcher. I mean, I'm a researcher now. I'm not a ghost hunter. I don't glue myself to the TV set. Um, I don't watch Travel Channel or whatever this thing is on. Um, but I know, that if you're going to um, at least have an episode where you're going to re-talk about, re-evaluate a case, you might want to do some current event updates. And that's not what was done to me and Tina's case. But more importantly, today's news, the revelations, they don't surprise me. They don't startle me. Um, the actions that Zak and those around him have taken, uh, they've been sending signals or telegraphing that for years. Um, when our episode aired and it was listed as no evidence found, paranormal teams who like Ghost Adventures stopped helping us, stopped talking to us. The trail went cold. The communication line was cut. Just on the basis of that episode, which was ill portrayal of Keith and Tina. But my conclusion is my summation around Zak Bagans is, and this is based on my experience with him and how he handled our case and how he could be orchestrating or these revelations about him and how he had the Demon House demolished soon after he concluded his investigation. Makes me feel with a near 100% surety that Zak is setting himself as some sort of, Michael Corleone leader of the paranormal community, if there should happen to be one, in regards to entertainment, in regards to what shows make it to television, in regards to subject matter. He wants to be at the tier top. Anything he views as a threat that doesn't necessarily have his name on it, he doesn't want it to be around. He may go to the network and say, I'm going to take my show and go elsewhere, or I'm going to sit this one out, or whatever they do behind the scenes to cut people off at the knees. I believe that. I believe this is something straight out of Zak Bagans' playbook. He's not one to work well with others, and this is not a personal attack. I know Zak has friends, and he's right to have friends, and I'm pretty sure he has allies. Some will probably come after me after this airs, and he has fans, and he has orchestrated his fans in a way through years, through careful TV programming, to think of the truth as relates to the paranormal as only coming through the prism of Zak Bagans, and that's wrong. I'm a firm believer of the paranormal, especially malevolent activity. I'm a survivor of it. I lived it. I lived 4 years in a Bothell house, suffered greatly. I have tremendous PTSD from that experience. I still occasionally do have paranormal events happening around me, and I'm no longer in the Bothell home. So I'm a believer in that. But I also, before I met or was thrown into the paranormal, I do know that you cannot have a setup where all the truths, all the discussions, all the topics have to be prismed or corralled or funneled, let's use that word, funneled through you. There needs to be a debate. There needs to be a difference of opinion. There needs to be a analysis. There needs to be a peer review of the evidence that any paranormal investigator captures. You need to share it with skeptics. You need to share it with your colleagues. You need to share it with your enemies. You need to share it with those who you don't really think should be shared with, because you want to stay true and you want your evidence to hold up against the test of time. And my reason for sending Nikki and her team's evidence to Zak is because I thought they were peers. My reason for sending Steve Mara and Don Phillips and Nick Kyle's evidence to Ghost Adventures because I thought these were your peers. And for you to go on TV and to play otherwise, shows a real character flaw, shows a level of narcissism, a level of being egotistical, thinking that it's my highway, you know, I run and control what's on the Travel Channel. I'm the content manager, talking about Zak Bagans. And that's wrong. That's wrong, but it's not against the law. But there is an ethics to there. And I think Zak is exposing, or what has recently come out about Ghost Adventures and Zak Bagans in particular, exposes his character flaw. I find these actions very egotistical. I find these actions by him and those around him very childish, immature, narcissistic, um, trying to have a monopoly, trying to own the conversation or own the field from an entertainment perspective is wrong. And I want to make my video to just speak on that. My vindication does not depend or does not begin or end with Zak Bagans' approval. Our claims were made, substantiated in 2016 by the paranormal teams I've already mentioned. And this new information about Zak Bagans does not shock me. But I guess I can say I feel a little bit vindicated because what Zak does to his own peers, whether he agrees with them or not, or whether a falling out they have, they still are your peers. What he does to them lets me know, to those on the outside looking in, should be very aware, should be very suspect. So I will close with that information. Thank you for watching. And as always, I welcome questions. If anybody wants to review the evidence that came from the Bothell House, reach out to me, and I'm going to point you to the teens who lived in the house, who found that evidence. And Zak, I know I won't be hearing from you because I never did when I sent you the evidence proactively. But what you're doing to your colleagues is shameful, and in my opinion, is an embarrassment. But it does fit the profile and the actions you did to myself and to Tina, and how you handled our case and how you betrayed us on national TV. Paranormal investigators, researchers, and ghost hunters, I feel, should follow the oath of do no harm. And you did a lot of harm to Tina, to me, and to others. And you never corrected that. And that's not what this video is about. I don't think you will. But it's interesting to know you're staying true in regards to now you're impacting those around you, and the revelations coming out about you stifling intellectual thought from other individuals and their shows because you feel it rivals yours or could rival yours. It's not surprising. And on that, I will close out. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. I hope you enjoy. Stay safe. Good night.